So we're now into the audio tape collection, and there are some things in this collection that I won't turn over to you unless you really want them, but they happen to do with videotapes we made on how to prepare capsules and how to prepare suppositories. They are historic in a sense that we did them at the beginning of the television age for education, because that was a quicker way to demonstrate what we were doing, but in terms of how to put things together, but I don't know if they're of historical interest. We have something entitled Clinical Pharmacy, A New Era, The New Mission. This is not a School of Pharmacy production. It's made by another corporation. It's made by Sandoz Corporation, and I think it does talk about our clinical program here. So we have tons of these tapes, as I said, that are demonstration tapes on how to put together various compounded dosage forms. And some of these are in beta format, some of them are in VHS format. This is probably a silent 16mm film called Clinical Pharmacy Ward Rounds. I honestly don't know for sure what is in it, but it's dated 1970, question mark, and I think we probably made it for the videotape that we eventually showed on called Clinical Pharmacy, an orientation to clinical pharmacy that we did for a special conference held here in the 1970s. So this is a 16mm videotape shot on ward rounds involving clinical pharmacy in its beginning stages. I mentioned earlier that there was a videotape we made that was the first of its kind, entitled Clinical Pharmacy, A New Concept in Patient Care. This is the original. Actually, it's not. This is the first generation. This is a 1-inch helical scan videotape made on a Sony machine of what was the original 2-inch scan. It was a commercial quality tape at that time, a 2-inch videotape. This was put on this format and shipped around the country. The last person that got it was Jerry Mizuka for the California Pharmacists Association, who showed it, I guess, at one of his meetings of his local association. We had in 1970s formed a coalition out of this school called the Society for the Continuation of Pharmaceutical Education, in which we prepared videotapes and distributed them to this network of pharmacy associations that had agreed to purchase a Sony 1-inch playback device. In those days, it cost about $1,000. They would play these at their meetings as educational sources. We made about 10 or 15 tapes of utilizing various faculty. So that was the Society for the Continuation of Pharmaceutical Education, acronym SCOPE, and it was composed of 15 or so local associations. This is nothing, it's just 16mm copies of commercials that I videotaped in the 70s, because I wrote a dog and pony show about the evils of advertising in terms of drug therapy. This is another 16mm film. This is a film the students made in 1962 or 3 or 4, sometime in that period. They put the money together for it. They lined up the photographers, and it's quite a nice production. It's very professionally prepared. It's called Turning Point, and it's basically, and it's 26 minutes long, it's basically the students' notion of the future of the profession. First of all, they considered it a recruitment film. They were preparing it to encourage people to come here, but it was also kind of like a look into the future, and you will see a couple of students around smoking heavily, discussing what the future of the profession is in it, and it shoots various dignitaries from our faculty, Donald C. Brody. It shows Dr. Paul Lawfom as one of the central members of the cast here, visiting various people looking for advice for his future. Dr. Paul Lawfom became one of the nation's most successful pharmacists. He's received the Distinguished Alumnus Award here. He received the Daniel B. Smith Medal of the American Pharmacists Association. That's the highest honor that can be given to a community pharmacist. And he's about a 2-year-old recipient of the APHA Remington Honor Medal, which says you're the best pharmacist in the nation, or it's the highest honor that we can give you, not just out of one academy, but out of the entire association. So Paul, shown here as a student, it's quite a juxtaposition where he's sort of looking for advice on what to do when he grows up, and he becomes one of the most successful pharmacists around. Here's a UNIVAC, I guess, recording. I have no idea. There were all sorts of formats being used. I'm not quite certain what's on it. I don't think I had a lot to do with this one, or if anything, the pharmacist and the healthcare of the elderly. And I don't even know the date, but it's pretty old because it's UNIVAC. So it would be probably 30 years old, probably made in the 70s, I would guess. University of California Clinical Pharmacy Program, 1975, 30-minute running time. I don't know, I don't remember what this is about. I don't think I had anything to do with this production. But you can see we were from time to time trying to record for promotional purposes what it was we were doing here. Okay, good. For whatever reason it might serve in the archival, this is a tape presented to us by the Vietnamese Pharmacists Association of America when we had their 10-year celebration in February 21st of 1998. To tell you what that meant was, in 1988, I think it was in 1988, David Adler and I petitioned the federal government for some money to retrain Vietnamese pharmacists who had fled to the United States after the takeover of Saigon. They had left their country. They didn't have their diplomas with them. They left in haste, and there were about 100 of them spread throughout the state of California who couldn't practice law because they weren't qualified to do so. David and I got a grant from the federal government to retrain them to American pharmacy in the hopes we could convince that due to their dedication, the fact that we could show that they had graduated from a school of pharmacy through some other mechanisms that we turned up, that we could convince the California State Board of Pharmacy to license them, showing that they were conscientious, that they were willing to undergo this training. The training took place, they were trained, the Board of Pharmacy did eventually agree. We worked with the California State Legislature, Laurie Rice and I. David put on the course down in San Diego. They gathered for 2 years, every weekend, every full weekend they came to this course, 100 pharmacists. Eventually the course completed it. They were given the permission to take the California State Board of Pharmacy, and 98 of them passed the first time, the examination. The other, for some reason, one of the other two has never passed it. She's quite embarrassed every time I see her. But in any event, they were obviously very grateful for what we had done for them, because we fought it at the national level too. I mean, it was a fight, because there was a notion you weren't trained in the United States, you weren't qualified to practice. And we were able to succeed at that. So this was a tape made of a ceremony we had in which we celebrated 10 years of the San Diego course, we called it. And we gave them diplomas that recognized what they had accomplished during that time. It was a wonderful, wonderful evening. This is marked a continuing education tape, Pharmacy Rounds with Ray Miller, 1973. This is on 1-inch helical scan. Again, it's that Sony equipment, that videotape that the copy was made on. And I think we actually videotaped it because by that point in time we had purchased our own equipment. Okay, good. Remember I said before that we made 2 hours videotape in 1970s, we did the first tape, Clinical Pharmacy, a New Concept in Patient Care, and I said we did a second 2-hour one, an orientation to clinical pharmacy, and I said it was a 2-hour presentation. This is it. This is the videotape for that 1-inch helical scan that we made for a presentation in which for the very first time we trotted out to the world the full clinical pharmacy program. We had a conference held here. We got federal monies for that one finally, and we had educators from all over the nation come here, including governmental people. And we had a program in which we basically blew our horn as loud as we could about clinical pharmacy. We had on the videotape, it showed them what it was like, what we had done. It was radical even then in the early 1970s. People still couldn't believe it. That videotape went around the nation, and it worked out. Okay, in mid-1970. This campus was trying to establish its identity. And I think that's what these 16mm film clips are from. These are sound movies. And at that time, the campus was trying to make certain that the Bay Area and the state of California knew that there was a University of California, San Francisco. Because they all knew about Berkeley, they all knew about UCLA. We had been called the UCSF Medical Center for decades, and that was what people recognized us by. But these were to establish us as a separate entity, and these were little health bits prepared by various members of the faculty. I think I'm on one of them. I think that Jerry Goyen's on another one. I think that Toby Herfindahl Eric Toby Herfindahl, eventually the chair of our Department of Clinical Pharmacy. One of our clinical pharmacy pioneers is on another one, and these were basically health-oriented. They weren't pushing clinical pharmacy, they were just the fact that, golly, that's a pharmacist talking drugs. And as I say, I think one of them has Jerry in it. I could be wrong, but I think that's what this is. This is another, looks like Univax tape. And it's entitled DIAC Master Tape. That's our drug information and DIAC, drug information. And I'm sorry, I can't remember what the acronym meant. But this is made in our Drug Information Center, which was an offshoot of our clinical pharmacy program. This one is dated 2/21/1974. And I guess it's a shot of our state-of-the-art at that time of our Drug Information Center, the center that eventually was shut down about 3 or 4 years ago after it had established itself as being a source of information on drug therapy, but it no longer served a purpose because we now had enough practitioners who could take care of that need, and it closed down. But this was opened up as, within months of the time we opened up our 9th floor project, as an offshoot, and I don't remember what this one says. I should remember, but I don't. The person that gave it to me assumes that I do. Another 1-inch helical scan tape. I don't know what it is. Oh, I do know what it is. It has nothing to do with history. So here's another video, here's another audio tape from a panel, pharmacy alumni panel at an alumni reunion in 1967. I think this may be another copy of Turning Point. Nope, this is Design for Life, and I don't remember what that is. But it's a, it may be a video, it may be a movie we made. I just don't remember what Design for Life is all about. But it's something we distributed, so it probably has some significance. Here's a reel-to-reel audio tape. Again, a Pharmacy Alumni Association meeting of 1967. These are reel-to-reel audio tapes. Okay, these are just the masters. Remember I said I made some educational videotapes on how to put together capsules and suppositories. We originally shot it on 1-inch helical scan, and this one is one that I made in 1963 or 64. I'm on camera and I can't recognize the person. Doesn't look like anybody I know now. Edge of Decision. This is another 16mm tape. I do not remember what that's all about. And I think the remainder here are the masters that appeared on the original 2-inch scan. Remember I told you before that a lot of the videotapes were done on the pharmacist and the healthcare of the elderly. We've been on already. These are not the 2-inch ones. A practical approach to consultation. This was used as an educational tool for students. These are the 2-inch tapes that I'm talking about that were original broadcast quality that I think were used to record the orientation to clinical pharmacy that we shot in 1970. The school, the campus inherited the machines from CBS. So that you should know that our first television network on this campus, our first cameras we had were inherited from CBS. They were hand-me-downs. They were old big clunky things. They required lights that when you stood in front of them you were blinded and you broke out in a sweat because they were so, the lights were everywhere, the clear lights were everywhere because the cameras weren't that sensitive, and they used these gigantic machines. That reel weighs probably 6 pounds, maybe 10, to record the tapes on. Okay, that's the audio-visual, so now it's time to move to the photographs, I guess. This is really just a document that I came across the other day, and I misfiled it. It should have been with our papers. But it's nothing other than a historical fancy, okay? It's from a page from what's known as Pacific Druggist, which is a publication, and it's dated December 20th, 1893. And really all it is a description of the alumni banquet that was held that year in 1893. Where it was held, Low Prestige Restaurant, what they did there, the people they honored. It was the graduating class. They were present, and they sang a song to the called After the Term, which was written by Dr. A.T. Ratansi and sung to the melody of After the Ball is Over. So it's I have a table, that's very sad, and so on. And it went on for forever. And then at the end of it, that just says the awards that were given. But it's fun because it sort of says what they did at an alumni reunion 120 years ago. I love those little peeks into the past.